Hello there, you maidenless runts. It's Tonanza, back with our next installment of Bosses Made Easy, the series where I break down each of the main Remembrance bosses and bosses required to beat the game and help you all on your way to become the next Elden Lord. So, today we are going to be breaking down Godrick the Grafted. Now, before we begin, I just want to point out that this boss is, at least in my opinion, not as difficult as Margit. That being said, however, it does not mean that there still aren't players who may struggle with this twisted ball of arms. So, to find Godrick, there are two different ways you could enter the castle. Either by going around through the side hole in the wall, or by taking the Walk of Pain through the main gate. Now, if you do take the main gate, honestly you could run straight to Godrick, and probably take him down. But by doing so, you will miss out on quite a bit of items, and even 2 golden seeds. So I would recommend the side path for at least your first playthrough. But either way, once you reach the fog, you will be going toe-to-toe, or hoof, with this rune holder. When Phase 1 begins, Godrick will slowly approach you and normally initiate the fight with one of 2 opening attacks. He'll either do a small leap forward followed by a horizontal slash with his axe, or he will drag his axe along the ground, indicated by the sparks here, and do a wide diagonal slash upwards. From here, he has a few moves to be watched out for, as they can be quite damaging. He has a jumping axe slam, a 5-hit large sweeping combo that is normally indicated by him grabbing onto the handle with both hands, and then he'll take a couple steps before it begins. There's 2 ways to handle this one. Either you run away and get the hell out of there, or if you run around to his left side, hug his booty, you can watch him whiff every single attack. The next one is an earthquake-style AoE skill that starts when he 2-hands his axe, lifts up his leg, and slams it into the ground. Now, this will always be followed by a second, larger AoE, by him plunging his axe further into the ground. So make sure you either time your rolls better, or get your distance. That being said, however, this is a great chance to punish him. If you roll into his arms as he starts to slam down the first attack, keep an eye out for his elbow. Watch it raise up to indicate the next slam is coming. Once you see this, roll once, and you can get quite a few good hits in while he recovers from that attack. And finally, his last attack to watch out for is his wind-style jutsu attack, or at least that's what I call it. But it is an attack that has Godrick spin his axe around 3 times, and that creates a whirlwind with each spin. Now, this is impossible to roll through. You can't iframe this. If you get hit by one, you do have enough time to roll away, but don't try to tank it or roll through it. It'll just stagger you and make it way more difficult for you to recover off of his follow-up attacks, which is one of 2 things. It'll either be a roll followed by a jumping slam attack, which, in my opinion, is great for punishing if you can dodge into the attack as he hits the ground. Or he has a twice casting whirlwind spell, which originates from his axe, and it has pretty insane tracking. However, the way to avoid this is to start moving in one direction and then roll into the opposite real quick when it's about to hit you. Now, do keep in mind you will need to do this twice in a row, because the follow-up cast is not too far behind the first one. But take a little bit of practice to get the timings in for this. You will fly through it and it'll never touch you. But outside of those 4 attacks, he will otherwise just do basic hits and combos and the occasional roll to distance himself to heal from you. These are simple enough to dodge or to get away from, but watch his attack speed, as he does like to switch it up. Sometimes attack slow, sometimes do quick follow-ups. same kind of bullshit you dealt with Margit, but at least this guy gives you a bit more opening. So keep at it until he decides to take the fight into his own hands, the start of Phase 2. After watching what is definitely one of the most metal cutscenes so far, Godrick gains a new friend and a few more dangerous attacks. When Phase 1 begins, Godrick will always reset his position and yours towards the center-ish of the boss arena. You still have some distance, but it'll reset it. Once you do have control of your character, you're going to notice he's going to be doing a long-range sweeping breath attack. This is one of your best opportunities the boss have given you to punish him, and you should definitely make full use of it. But if you do want to avoid it, there's two ways. You can either run away in kind of a diagonal line, or, as I have recommended, you should use this to punish heavily. And you can do this by running towards him and rolling into the fire. Now, I know it's a little bit sketchy to try to do that, but trust me, your iframes will protect you. This will not hit you, and you are just free to wail on him while he finishes this very long-winded attack. Also, too, this is a great way to cause a stagger on the boss and do quite a bit of damage, turning this fight more heavily in your favor. Now, he can be staggered outside of this, but I've been able to pretty consistently stagger him in this phase due to reasons I have no clue, but it just happens and it works for me, okay? So trust me, trust the process. After this initial attack, Godrick, as you would expect, gains a few more moves, and these do hit quite a bit harder than the attacks in Phase 1. Also, his range, as you can expect, is now a bit longer due to his dragon being just slightly larger. But now that it's crunch time, let's first go over the attacks from Phase 1 that have now been improved, let's say. His whirlwind attack now does fire damage and has a slightly larger AoE. Also, the volleys of air that he throws at you, if he decides to do his distancing attack, are also fire infused. So the same rule applies for dodging, but it's worth mentioning now since you do take slightly more damage from the added fire effect. His ground slam that he did in Phase 1 has also been upgraded, now hitting a total of 3 times, each hit having an increased range. So to avoid this, you're going to have to do one of two things. You're going to have to be either vigilant with your rolling, which the timing is harder now because he doesn't have the same grasp the handle with both hands, slam down, watch for the elbow. That trick's not going to work anymore since, as you've noticed, he has it one-handed and he's just slam, slam, slams. So either be very good with your roll timings, which is a bit tricky, or honestly, just get the hell out of there. Try to roll away and get your distance and wait for the attack to finish. He still has some recovery time afterwards, so you can get a hit or two in. Now that pretty much covers Phase 1 attacks that have been altered. Now let's move on to the new and exciting attacks that he can use to end your miserable life. Aside from the opening attack, which you see when Phase 2 begins, Godrick also gives us more openings for attacks. However, some of the openings only allow for a hit or two, then you need to get out of there before he starts smacking you around. So do not let your greed take advantage here, otherwise it'll punish you more than you want it to. One of his new moves is an attack where he'll breathe fire directly ahead of him and then walk in that same direction for a few steps. Now, you should definitely be doing what you can to get behind him so that you can get a hit or two in, but be careful because the flames will spread at his feet, so don't get too greedy because that'll easily get you caught, and that deals a ton of damage for what level you would normally be at. Now, the usual tell for this attack is you'll see fire form from the dragon's mouth, and then the dragon is kind of spun in front of him in a small circle right before he starts beginning his fire attack and his stroll downtown. So keep an eye for that. Watch the dragon head spin around. try to get behind him in that time, and then get a couple hits in, and then as he starts walking, I would personally get your hit or two in and then back off, and keep an eye out for his feet, because you'll see as the flame will kind of wrap around it, as you should say. The next new attack is the Meteor Shower, which has him plunge his dragon's face into the ground, do a spin, and then he'll pull the dragon out and spit meteors in front of him. The range on this has a strange tell. I seem to get hit when I think I'm safe, and not get hit when I thought I was gonna. So honestly, the best thing to do in this scenario would be, as he plunges the dragon into the ground, run behind him and get a couple hits in while he's finishing his move and spitting out the magma. Now, if you do feel like standing toe-to-toe with him and just duking it out, watch out for his new grab attack. This hurts a lot, especially if you're low on vigor at this point. Now, the tell for this attack to keep your eye on is the dragon will be held horizontally, and the mouth will open up wide, and you'll even hear an audio cue of the dragon yelling. Now, this is the tell to keep an eye on, because followed by that is a huge horizontal grab. Now, honestly, the hitbox is a bit good on this one, so roll into the dragon's mouth, and your iframes will protect you for this. But if you don't, you're gonna get caught, and it's gonna hurt a lot. So maybe just try to keep spacing so that you can quickly get out of there if he does decide to do a grab. And that just about covers all of his attacks in Phase 2, so just keep your eye out for the openings. Remember to roll or run into him when he does his flame attacks to get an easy punish, and he will be felled in no time. So Godrick is pretty much along the same lines as Margit when it comes to weaknesses and resistances, except he does take slightly less damage from magic, fire, and lightning than he would if you used a physical, which he has no resistance to. But it's not, I'm not saying throw your talisman or staff to the side, because the damage resistance is quite negligible overall, but for the sake of being thorough, I wanted to mention it. He is quite resistant to holy magic, and he is completely immune to sleep, deathblight, backstabbing, or being parried. Now, feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I have not been able to backstab him, and parrying has never worked for me. I'm not the best parrier in the world, but I should have at least got one or two off. So now on to the fun stuff that you can do to really punish this guy. He can be affected by bleed, frostbite, poison, and scarlet rot, which honestly makes the fight significantly easier overall, as the giant chunks out of his health from the bleed and frostbite, or the small chipping from poison or rot, gives you a leg up over time. And those procs are just wonderful if you've been able to keep the pressure on. Speaking of keeping pressure, if you use a summons or have a heavy/blunt weapon, you'll be able to poise break him and get a very nice critical hit in, which can very easily take whatever side of the fight it's on and flip it in your favor. Now, he can be poise broken with regular weapons, but it seems to take more hits to get his gauge to fill, but it's still doable. And that just about wraps up our second main boss, Godrick the Grafted. Hopefully with this guide you have been able to find yourself just a bit more equipped with dealing with him, and afterwards you will have officially conquered your first remembrance dropping boss, and you now have the ability to claim your first Great Rune Shard. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. If you did, consider dropping a like or subscribing, as it would help the channel grow. But with all that out of the way, thank you so much for stopping by. I'll catch you in the next one when we take on Renalla, Queen of the Full Moon. See you then. Take care.